Okay, this next video is going to be on carburetor cleaning, and we need to start out with one of the modern day conveniences known as an ultrasonic cleaner. It has a heater element for it, and it also has ultrasound generating cones underneath it. And the mix that we use is 50% water, 50% simple green. Works quite well. You can see that you can control the heat, which is the LEDs on the left, and the ultrasound wave generator, which is on the right. These have come down quite a bit in price, to a point where just about anybody can afford one. This particular unit is from Horrible Fright, and it's held up quite well. Now, I want to go through some of the tools that you'll use to rebuild a carburetor, and I need to add that ham-handed people need not apply. Carburetors are extremely delicate. They have very fragile parts, and it can make you crazy. But we're going to start out. You're going to need a various assortment of screwdrivers, big blade, small blade, some Phillips head, as many blade assortments as you can come up with, because you're going to have jet screws, jets to unscrew, and the screwdriver blade has got to be wide enough to reach across both sides of the hole that makes up the jet. I have here some specific jet tools. You can find these on eBay. And the one on the right happens to be one that I had to make because I did not have one that was the correct size. You don't always need a jet tool, but if you have very stubborn jets, a lot of times a screwdriver isn't going to be enough. These have a 1/4 inch socket drive on the back end of them. For this particular carburetor, I'm going to be using a 5/16 nut driver. You will find that a pair of hemostats will serve you well. Some very small screwdrivers and pick tools. You will absolutely need a pick tool. Needle nose pliers are never going to hurt. Pipe cleaners, get the kind with the bristly kind. They're going to work much better. An assortment of bottle brushes will be a big help. Over here, I have a pack of stylets, which are very, very, very fine wire. These particular stylets are 7 thousandths in diameter. And while I've hardly ever needed them, I did run into, for example, a carburetor from a Model B Ford. Model B was made from 1932, 33, and 34. Right after they got done with the Model A production, and the idle jet on that B carburetor is so tiny that these stylets were the only thing I could get to go through there. I have the carburetor itself from the 48 DeSoto here, and I just wanted to demonstrate one technique that you will use your machinist hammer for. There's a reason we have that out. Carburetors, ancient vintage carburetors, love to have the screws corrode up in the pot metal. And this is where you've got to be very, very, very careful. You don't want to booger up the threads in the pot metal. So one of the first things that I'll do is I'll take a correct sized screwdriver, put it into the slot of a screw, and give a couple of taps with the machinist hammer. You don't need to beat the daylights out of it, but you'll be surprised how well a couple of taps will help to loosen up the corrosion. Now that screw came right out because I've had this carburetor apart already, but trust me, there were several screws on here where I needed to go tappity tap, and I'll try a little bit without tapping, but if it wants to fight me at all, the machinist hammer's coming out and it's going to get tapped. That B carburetor from the Model B Ford that I was talking about, that spent about 3 or 4 days in the ultrasound bath, because that was the only way that I could get that jet freed up enough that I could run the stylet wire through it. So just things to keep in mind. Get the right tools, take your time, be very, very patient. The parts are fragile and delicate. The last segment was showing the various tools that you would need to rebuild the carburetor. We're going to add a few more items here before we get started on the actual rebuild. The items that you're going to find to be very, very handy is going to be brake cleaner to blow out your passageways, computer duster. The brake cleaner cleans out your passageways. The computer duster will blow the brake cleaner out and dry everything out. If you have a carburetor base, they're always cast iron, and we happen to like VHT high temperature roll bar and chassis paint. That has worked very well for us. You're going to need a Dremel tool. These things are amazing. This is a better quality one, and you can adjust the RPM, which is very helpful. And you can get an assortment of various brushes for these Dremel tools. You can get these, of course, online. A jeweler's loop with a built-in magnifier is extremely handy. A lot of these carburetor parts are very tiny, very fragile, very delicate, and it's good to be able to see everything clearly. One last tool that has come into existence for this particular carburetor. I'm rebuilding a carburetor for a friend in Tennessee, and you might be able to notice a file mark. I have some white paint surrounding. I've already cleaned up this base and painted it, and I made a white mark around a burr that I found on this base. The burr is right there. You can possibly see that it's been filed down. So a good three-corner file would be a very good thing to have. We knew that this carburetor had an air leak. We didn't know where it was. We just decided to tear the whole thing down and do a complete rebuild. And on this particular carburetor, which is another Carter, I found completely dried up gaskets which had cracked and caused an air leak. And then I saw this, I felt this high spot which prevented the next level of the carburetor body to sit square on the base, thereby again creating an air leak. The complaint is a mid-range flat spot when driving. So hopefully when we get done with that carburetor, that will be all straightened out.